I think we are about to go live. If anyone is here and we are live, we're going live across the Facebook group today and into LinkedIn. So welcome Ruth Kudzi. Ruth is joining us today for a Facebook Live to talk all about her journey from senior education to running Optimus Coach Academy. So Ruth is CEO and founder of Optimus Coach Academy. She's a coaching psychologist, best-selling author, which we'll talk about, and speaker, and also one of our flexible working people partners. Training as a coach and starting her own business completely changed Ruth's life. And we thought actually it'd be really exciting and more interesting to talk about her journey and how she got to be where she is, rather than kind of just about coaching and what that means. Because I think that people are really inspired by personal stories. And I just said to Ruth, like, we see people kind of where they are and where they've got to, but actually we don't really always know the journey that it took them to get there. And so we kind of always see the glossy stuff, but actually beneath all of that is a journey like anybody else of transition. So today Ruth's going to talk about her experience from kind of leaving the world of employment to running this amazing, she just told me, 7-figure. I love talking about money. I think that we should. Really important 7-figure business. Amazing. So I'm going to stop talking about Ruth. I'm going to let Ruth talk about Ruth. Hi, Ruth.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you. I'm actually really excited about this live because you've been a partner for a little while. And we were talking about it. And actually, some of the people in the group have signed up to Optimus Coaching and they're starting the training, but we've never really got under the skin of you. And I think that your story is amazing. And I just thought today would be a really good time to kind of unpick it a bit. So I've done a bit of the formal intro, but why don't you talk to us about kind of your early days and your journey and what you were doing before you started Optimus, and just talk us through that piece.
Well, I'll go right back, okay? And the reason I'm doing this is because it all makes sense when I go back, but it wasn't deliberate. I didn't like decide to do all these things. And now when I'm like, oh, actually that all makes sense. So I studied psychology and management at university back in the 90s, did that as a joint degree, really interested in coaching. So we were talking about coaching leadership styles and how they're really effective, really interested in entrepreneurship as well. But at that stage, I went to Leeds University. The only people who became entrepreneurs were men. Like, it was only the guys on our course that became entrepreneurs. And I'd say it was only the guys who'd gone to private school who had money who became entrepreneurs. So you're like, okay, that's for them. Probably not for me. Like, I'm not a man. I don't have that background. I don't have that money behind me. So I went off and I started working in recruitment. So I worked in recruitment in the UK and in the US, and set up offices in Europe as well, not speaking any languages.
I didn't know that about you. I didn't know you started in recruitment.
Yeah, now when I look back, I was on the European team. We used to go to France, on the Eurostar from Waterloo back in the day when it was from there. And we'd go to meetings like in Paris, and we couldn't speak French and they couldn't speak English, and we still got clients. So, sometimes communication isn't what you say, it's how you are. And I think that the fact that we traveled to Paris to meet with them was a big thing. So I worked in that for about 3 years. And then I was earning like the 6 figures when I was really young. And obviously, well, not obviously, but I didn't save it. I didn't do anything. I just thought I was in Sex and the City, especially when I was in New York. But I realized that it wasn't like my main driver wasn't money. So I then went and trained as a teacher, a business and economics teacher, and quickly worked my way up there. At the same time, doing a master's in psychology and education, and became a senior leader. So I worked in Newham. I worked there as a consultant with businesses and education. So I did lots of really cool stuff, helped build a qualification that then was defunct a few years later, a national qualification, but did lots of really, really cool stuff around the Olympics. So this was all pre-2012. Then I became a senior leader, and I did a fast track thing that was called Future Leaders at the time. Now it's called Ambition School Leadership. And in that process, so that was the beginning of 2011, I got a coach. And I remember sitting it was at a place called the National College of School Leadership, which used to be in Nottingham. Again, that's closed down. And I remember sitting in our first training. So we're there we're like high potential, relatively young people wanting to become head teachers. And I thought, I want to be a coach. I don't want to be a head teacher.
Did you instigate the coach, or did the company that you were working for instigate the coaching?
We got the coach as part of this program. So we got coaching and mentoring, and
as she mentored you, you thought, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. And we were doing lots of coaching, coaching in school. So we had lots and lots of training, but it wasn't accredited. And so I kept thinking, this is what I want to do. And I kept having my finger over like this particular course in coaching. Like, I'd always be looking at the Institute of Education and Goldsmiths. They both have really great courses. And I just didn't press that button. I didn't do it. And I was a senior leader. I was deputy head and assistant head of really challenging schools. So every school, it wasn't me, but every school I was a senior leader in went into special measures. And if you know about that, that is really intense. Like, that basically means, well, you're told that you're failing. Okay. So a lot of coaching there, a lot of leadership development, a lot of resilience, a lot of learning. And even though I loved that, I was like, I can't see myself doing this full time. Like, I always chose the schools in challenging areas. I always chose the schools that like needed the love. And I do think you've got a finite amount of time. And then I became pregnant. And I remember I was actually supporting on the program that I got my coach on in the summer of 2014, pregnant. And some of the ladies there who were really experienced heads said to me, Ruth, just think about it, because every child matters except for yours. So at this time, I was doing lots of leadership coaching. I was coaching head teachers. I was coaching senior leaders. I was coaching in my school. I was coaching in my role. And I was like, yeah, okay. And you know, when you hear these stuff and you're pregnant, and by the way, when you're first pregnant, you don't think, like, you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, my life is going to be
what's coming. You just have no idea.
The same. You know, I remember going to festivals like pregnant with my first bump, like, yeah, we'll still do that. And then I'm like, yeah, with my second daughter, which I'll come on to, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. My life has changed. But yeah, I was quite naive. But then I went back to school. And so a year after having her, because she was born in September, so I managed, that was one benefit. And I remember on her first birthday, so when I went back, first of all, I wasn't there. So we all had different responsibilities. And my responsibility went to, one of the things was managing cover. Oh my gosh. Why a senior leader is doing that as well, because, it's not a senior leadership role, but it was a nightmare. And I had to be in really early to do it. The software you couldn't have at home. So it meant that I was leaving really early in the morning, even though I lived very close to the school. And then it was my daughter's first birthday. And so I left really early, and then we had a meeting. I wasn't excused from it. So I didn't see her when she was awake. And I just thought, this is it. This is like the sign that I need. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I was really good at coaching. I knew I had lots and lots of experience. And so I was like, right, I'm going to actually make sure that I do my ICF coaching. So I did an ICF course, and also did a postgrad as well at the same time.
So had you given up your salary at this point to do this?
No, I did that at the same time. So I did the training when I still had the salary. So, and the other thing that was going on there is, so did the training, made that decision. So that was 2015, made the decision, I'm going to leave. I'm going to set up my own business. And it took me about 6 months to actually do it and get my first paying customer. And I did that really through my network. My network wasn't big, but I just basically asked everyone, who do you know? And I went onto Facebook, set up a Facebook group, focused, really focused in. So by 2016, when I was on maternity leave with my second daughter, I really built that business. And so I just went into coaching, but I didn't go into leadership coaching. So I was accredited, I was certified, and I later became accredited, and I was doing lots and lots of training. And I first started working with women who wanted to change careers after they had their children, because all of everyone I met in my NCT group, everyone was like, I'm not sure what I want to do. I don't know if I want to go back to my role. And I would say, 80% of the mums that I met were like, I don't really know what to do. I want more flexibility. I'm not sure I still like my role. I want to be around for my kids, all of that stuff that we hear. And so I thought, right, that's a great niche. So I had a Facebook group called Career Change Mums. That was about 8 years ago. Don't know if anyone remembers it. And that was how I started. And
Yeah,
really, I was like, yeah, because we were about the same time, weren't we?
Yeah.
Kind of getting into Facebook, not knowing what
I'm just not on 7 figures yet, Ruth. So I'm just here to listen, take it all in.
Yeah. And I was really like, I didn't actually tell many of my friends what I was doing. And I remember the last day before I went on maternity leave, my second daughter, and I was like, I want to be bringing as much money into my business as I'm earning as my salary. Which, by the way, your revenue is not equitable. Yeah, that isn't how much money you take home. But anyway, that's what I said to myself. And so by November 2016, that was the case. That was like my first time that I had that similar amount to what I would be getting as a salary.
How did you build that? Because that's the key. Like, when people are listening to this, it's like you don't want to miss this bit, because this bit is the how did you go from starting? Because it just sounds like you're naturally entrepreneurial, like you just are. You give that, you've talked about how.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Just that vibe. Like, I think successful people build businesses.
Yeah, but I mean, it was hard, right? So I had a Facebook group. I used to do lives in my Facebook group like 3 times a week. I did freebies, I did free courses, I did challenges. I went to networking events. I took my baby to networking events with me. I
put the graft in. You showed up. You were consistent.
I spoke. I went to everything. I did everything. So I was mainly on Facebook and Instagram at that point. Facebook groups were a lot easier there. Well, they were different, right? They were different. Now I would, if I was starting, I'd start on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think the market's different.
Same.
But yeah, it's different. Yeah. For us then, Facebook was the place. So I was relentless. I built an email list. I emailed those people. I invested in other training, but I was relentless, and at the beginning, most people, so most of my clients, I would say for the first kind of 8 months, I'd say they were wider networks. They weren't people that I knew, but I used to live in Southeast London, and nearly all of my clients at the beginning were from Southeast London. So I do stuff with Mummy's Gin Fund, Brilliant Helen. I would go to a vet. Yeah. So I was really, really putting myself out there. Yeah. So, and I was doing this all around 2 children. So I was working at the beginning, I was working 2 kind of mornings a week, and I was building that up. Now, obviously the great thing about social media is we can post on social media. Yeah. So we can do that when our kids are asleep and everything else. So, if you look at my posting times, it was probably like 9 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock in the morning back then, because that's what we did. So I just did everything that I could, because I was really focused on, I want to have something that means I'm around for the kids. I love coaching. I love doing this. Yeah, I was doing a postgrad at the time as well. I was, I was having to go into London to do this. And oh my gosh, like imagine having a little baby. I was breastfeeding, all of that jazz. But I was just so focused on like, this is what I want to do. So resigned November 2016. So about a year after I'd made the decision.
So that's interesting as well. So it was not a side hustle, but you sort of built it to a point where you were comfortable that you could leave your salary job behind. And then you were like, so you didn't just sack it off and go, right, I'm just setting up coaching. You managed, you paralleled it, which I think is really sensible and what most people who retrain would do.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good idea. And so things like, yes, I put stuff on credit cards, but I knew that, it would have been a bit tight if I had to pay them off and went back to my salary. But I always had that, right? So I knew that I could always go back. And I equally knew that, I worked in education. Like I knew I could always have a job. So, that was a bit of security for me. And then because I worked in education, I had a 3-month notice period. So I think I left at the end of April. So around this time in 2017, the month I got married. By the way, that's probably not that smart to leave your job and your salary when you're getting married. And this is a really interesting
Not that sensible to the husband who kind of questions.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Why have you chosen this particular time to leave your job?
And I remember as well, like I used to always call my business Ruth Kudzi from the beginning, because my surname is really distinctive as well, my maiden name, and I didn't want the kids to find me from my school, although they did, like, and they phoned, were like, "Hello, Miss Lydell."
So Kudzi is your married name?
That's my married name, yeah. And that was interesting because when I actually got married in 2017, after that, like my business was really consistent. And so I'd had kind of a year and a half of working predominantly career coaching, confidence coaching, bit of mindset coaching. And what I found is people kept coming to me for business. And I was a business teacher. So I taught this A-level, I've taught it up to postgrad. And so people were kind of not knowing things like target audience, break even. You know, I always say to my accountant now, when she talks to me about break even and cash flow, I'm like, oh, you take me back to, you know, my uni lectures, but these things are really important to know, right? And so I recognized there's a gap. So I created like a course that was much more like practical, like, you know, we talk about niching the whole time, but actually it's target audience. Who are you speaking to? So I did that. And
so are you talking now about your transition into how you're now
well, that was my transition with my coaching business. So I suppose it was career and confidence. And then that kind of evolved that I was working more kind of in a little bit of the mentoring side on business, but also the mindset side. And that's what I still do. So I still coach now. I still have a mastermind. I still have one-to-one clients. Although interestingly, I have more leadership clients again. So that was like right where I started. So kind of 2017 to the end of 2019, I was coaching. That's what I was doing full time. Well, I say full time, never full time, because again,
flexible everything else.
Around the kids, it was changing. They were doing 3 days, then 4 days. Then they went to like a Montessori nursery where they
finished. It changes, doesn't it? It ebbs and flows, it shifts, and what you need when they're 2 and 4 is very different to when they're 11 and 14. Like it it changes.
And there was so much guilt around that as well, as being like, I should have like 1 day off a week with them. And then I'm like, let's just, you know, make it work. And it did work. And then, so all of the time when I was doing that, I was like, I'd done the ICF training that I didn't think was great. I thought it was quite basic and didn't have much psychology in it. And I'd done a postgrad that was amazing, that was full of psychology, that no one finished. And I thought there's a gap. Like we can have training that's got psychology in it and that is ICF accredited, but it's practical. It's not about essays and exams and stuff. And so that was like in my head all the time. And then at the end of 2019, I formed Optimus. And so like to do that as well, I had 2 years of mentoring to get me up to a master coach certification level. There's only about 100 of us in the UK. And again, I'm going to share this too. The first round that we did, so it started in 2020 in February. And it was meant to be like in person and online. Obviously, we know what happened. But, you know, during the pandemic, I was doing that training twice a week. We didn't make any money from that first round. Okay. So no money at all. And remember because there was so much I had to pay for, the ICF accreditation, my mentoring, like there was so many pieces that I had to pay for first. And we run it at a low level that we didn't make money. And I think that people think that, oh, you're going to make lots of money straight away. And it was hard to get those first people. It was really hard. And I knew we needed to have 5 people passed to get our accreditation. And so we had 8 people on the course and we got it. But, you know, they all passed. But that was a lot of work. And bear in mind, during the pandemic, I just want to share this because it's really easy to go, oh, it sounds like it was really straightforward. During the pandemic, you know, I had 2 kids who were 3 and 5. There was lots and lots of stuff going on for us personally. And I had a really finite amount of time. My husband had a job in marketing that made everybody else put them all on furlough except for him in his business. So he had that. I had this. We obviously didn't have any support as a pandemic. And I had, 5 hours a week that I had committed to this qualification. So that did impact, salary and everything else. But I was really, really sure that this was going to make a difference. And so this is now 4.5 years on from that. And that is my main business. And that has
your main focus and time spent, or your main income?
Yeah,
both.
Main focus in terms of what I do. It's what I love. It's how you can have more impact, and it brings everything together. So
the shift from being a coach to running a business is different. Obviously, now you still have your finger in the pie. You're still coaching, so you're still getting that hit of what you love doing, which is coaching. But now you're a business owner, and you've got to build a business, run a business, make sure that that's profitable. So talk to us a bit about that.
Oh gosh, lots and lots about that. Building a team. It's really different to build a team when you are when it's your business than when you are building a team working in an organization. Loads of things about that. It's really different. And I think we're in a great place now, but that was a hard process. Money, I'm trained. I used to teach accountancy. I've still made mistakes. Both businesses are long-term sustainably profitable. We make more. We've made more profit than we have anything else. But we've also had really, really shaky times, right? Where I spent too much money. Honestly, I spent too much money. Where I didn't make good decisions, and so you have to be really resilient and learning from that. My husband works in our business, so he joined the business in 2021, so nearly 3 years ago. So again, there's two, our business employs 2 people, and yes, it turns over 7 figures. We've turned over 7 figures from 2021 onwards across the 2 businesses. But there are things that come with that. Your tax bill, your VAT bills, it's, and I think as well, you have to think about, is this right for me? I didn't expect to be here. I remember seeing, and I don't talk that much about the money because I see a lot of people who are very showy and don't tell the truth. But I'm really grateful for being here, and I'm really grateful that we're growing. The training business is growing year on year, and I think that's because it's really quality and we love what we do. And I think it's because it does fit a need in the market as well, because people did want really quality accredited training that did include psychology. So it has done what I intended it to do.
And how many people have been through the program now with Optimus?
Oh my gosh. So I think on the diplomas, it's around 700. So we've got 2 diplomas now, professional, which is longer and is 8 months, and associate, which is shorter and it's 4 months. So actually on those diplomas, about 700. And then we've got, that's about right. And then we've got, we've delivered it in organizations as well. So we've delivered this or variations of this within organizations. So if you're adding that on, then you're well over 1,000.
So I want to know, because you are a successful coach and a successful entrepreneur, and you're now running a successful business. But for the people who are listening to this and going, well, that's amazing, but I'm me. How am I going to make a success of this? How do I follow? Because for me, I'm listening to you and you're talking about, you've got drive, there's consistency, you're showing up, you're entrepreneurial, you're investing not only in your business, but in yourself. And one of the things that I think that people struggle with is that investment in themselves. And actually, I think for you, that's what's got you where you've studied, you've invested in courses, you've invested in coaches yourself. People don't realize that actually making an investment and spending money on themselves actually gets them to the place sometimes they need to be. It doesn't just all happen by osmosis. You have to do that. And so I'm loving hearing that. And that bit's just really interesting, because I think people just hate spending money on themselves, to further themselves. But if you don't invest in yourself, how are you going to move forwards in your, and take risk and all of those things? So I'm listening to this and I'm actually just sitting here, and I just love your view on that, but sitting on the fence and not taking the leap. And, you know, all of those things. You're never going to get to the place because you need to take risks. Like, what's your version of that?
Oh my gosh. Right. Okay. So if you think about it, and the thing is that what we did basically do this, we probably didn't even think about it. If you're if you're my age, you didn't, but I took 2 years out before university. So I did. So we paid fees at university, right? That was,
yeah, I did too.
Yeah. I'm 46. And I think if I'd gone straight to uni, I wouldn't have. Even I think if you're under 45, you would have paid fees. So that was an investment. Yeah. We don't think about that. When I was doing that training that I did, like when I was on Future Leaders, they said we've invested £80,000 in you, and we had to pay it back. Yeah. So we had to do things like mentor and coach people, do career days, loads of stuff to pay it back to that organization. And if you didn't, I think you had to pay that back. So like, that was £80,000, like a person. That's well over a decade ago. So it'd probably be like 150 now. So it's crazy that other people invest in us, but we don't invest in ourselves. And I think as well, you need to think about, like, the big thing that I'm not a fan of is people saying, well, I need to invest millions. No, you don't, right? You need to start where you are. And I think the other thing that I'm going to say is, it's really easy for me to sit here now, but it took me ages. I'm not saying, like, there were times when I thought I'm just going to give up. There were times when, I was late with an HMRC payment. Oh my God, the most terrifying thing. You do it once, most people never do it again. Like, there have been those times. And I think it's about having that vision and that why of why you want to do it, and having support around you. And sometimes we do need to pay for that, for people who do know what they're doing. I can read a cash flow forecast, but my accountant is a lot better than me, right? So all of these things we need to think about.
Okay, so my next question is about what ingredients or kind of what goes into a successful coach. So if somebody's sitting going, I want to be successful in this, and you've trained 700 people in your academy to become coaches. So you're seeing people come through this, and there's people coming out at the other end of it who are making a great success. There will inevitably, just be people who aren't, and then there'll be people who are smashing it. So what would you say, if you're thinking about doing this, are the ingredients of a successful coach? What should you...
I think successful coaches are people who've got like empathy, they're great listeners, they're resilient, like they've got all of those things. But running a successful coaching business is different, okay?
Very.
So looking at it through that lens, you need to be resilient. You need to show up. You need to be visible. And that doesn't mean it's only on social media, because you can do that. I have people who aren't on social media who get all of their clients through their network. So you need to think about, what is my network like? What have I done before? How willing am I to build that? You need to, if you want to run a coaching business, you need to think about your business development.
So true.
So you need to be tenacious. You need to, and we can all learn this. You need to be tenacious. You need to follow up. You need to build relationships. You need to be clear on what you do. All of those things are super, super important.
And that is the key, because the point is that I know someone who's just trained as a coach and did all the learning and whatever, but had no idea what it meant to actually run a coaching business. And so you can have all of the empathy and the skills and be an amazing coach, but if you can't take your business out and get clients and, nurture it and grow it and be driven and all of those things, then you're going to get stuck. So it's a really interesting mix, isn't it, of what you need to put in the pot to be successful. And I'm just interested, from your point of view, from Optimus coaching, from your business, what journey do you take them on? So, because I'm assuming you don't just go, well, here's the coaching and off you go. So tell us what you do to support people in that journey to be successful.
So we have the coaching program, and that is just about the coaching. And then we have business support that you can access whenever you want. So they have a whole thing of training where maybe they're looking at LinkedIn, maybe they're looking at Facebook, maybe they're looking at networking. There's a whole raft of training, including like an online program that takes them through step by step, thinking about goals, thinking about metrics, thinking about measuring, thinking about, it's like, this is nothing new, but thinking about, how do you attract new people to your business? How do you Oh my gosh, I've just forgotten the word. And how do you nurture those people? How do you convert them to clients? How do you deliver and how do you retain? Like, we've got the deliver because we've created, you'll be a great coach, but actually thinking about that structure in your business. And then we do 2 business days a year. So we get lots of external speakers who are all coaches who are all doing it, because I think that's important, sharing how. We have business mentoring, group mentoring every month with me, where you can ask questions. We have marketing Q&A every month as well. So, what I say to people is, I can't guarantee that you'll be a success. What I can say is we'll support you, and you can always ask for that support. But you need to be proactive. Just before this, because I've got some other training later today, I was looking at adverts for coaches, okay? Because you can be employed as a coach. And I found adverts for coaches across all different sectors. I also found some contracting and some associate work just by looking at on Indeed and LinkedIn. And I think, like, really simple things like that. You don't have to only build a coaching business with individuals. You can work as an associate. You can get work on coaching apps. Again, like, one of the things about working as an associate, you need to make yourself attractive. You need to think, how do I align with the goals and the vision of this business? Because some will only take you if you've got a corporate background. Some will only take you. So you need to, it's like you're applying for loads of jobs. You need to still
have these skills, but you have to think about how you're actually going to apply them in the real context of what you're going to do with them. Are you going to go and work as an associate? How are you going to niche or find your target audience? Like, you've really got to think about all of those things, and you'll help them, but ultimately they have to put the work in and turn up and, be consistent.
You can't guarantee. And if anyone says, I'm going to guarantee you're going to get this, you're like, well, you can't. But I can guarantee that we will support you. And we have people who are doing brilliantly, of course. And there are people who maybe aren't doing as well. And sometimes they go and get jobs as internal coaches instead. But again, it's because you have to be tenacious. And it's really hard. Like, Katie, I know that you'll resonate with this. Like, when people say no to you, it's not very nice. But we've got so used to people saying no to us that we're like, oh, okay. Like, people say no to me every day. And now it doesn't, it still hurts, but it's not like at the beginning. Someone said, like, you'd have a discovery call and someone would say no, and you're like, oh.
You'd be hurt. It would hurt your feelings. But now you're like, okay.
We even had a discovery call.
Yeah.
I think we did. I think we had a call about working together. Like,
hopefully. Yeah. When I was on my journey of discovery.
Yeah. And Katie chose to work with someone else. I remember, because you told me that you chose.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
And so this is the thing. Like, I tell you what as well, that was a really great thing. Katie said to me, thank you for your time. I've chosen to work with someone else. And what was lovely about that is I was like, that person values my time. And so I never thought anything badly. I just wish Katie well. But again, I think even then it was like, it's still a blow. But as you develop, you'll be like, okay, you'll start to trust that you will.
Well, I forgot about that. And you still decided to partner with us. That's lovely. I'm so glad I sent you that email and didn't just ignore you and ghost you. God, that would have been embarrassing.
I love it. The thing is that I just remembered that now, and I didn't even remember that.
No, nor did I, but now I remember it too. Okay, so look, you've taken us on a journey. I've loved this conversation. It's really given us a really good insight into like how you got there. But all I'm taking from this is that you made it happen, that no one's going to make it happen for you. You can take the step, you can train, and all the successful entrepreneurs, they have the same ingredients. They've got the same DNA. Like, they just, and interestingly, you said at the beginning, I'm not driven by money.
So
I don't know if I really believe that, because then you said, I wanted to get to the point where I was earning before, like, and I didn't know whether that was because you needed it or you wanted it.
Right? I needed it. So we had a mortgage. Yeah, we had a mortgage. We had 2 kids. They were in a nursery 3 days a week. I needed to make that money. So it wasn't like, I want this money. And now, again, it's like, the thing is, like, money's so interesting, isn't it? Because now we lived in a 3-bedroom house. Now we live in a 5-bedroom house. And so, like, money is important. But I think, when I look at how much money we need, I'm like, okay, I don't need millions. Yeah, it'd be lovely. And we've got a plan to pay down our mortgage and everything else. But, that isn't my number one thing, that it's money. But of course it's choice. And when you've got children, you want to give them choice. You want to give them things. But you still sometimes I go into my kids' room and I'm like, you've got far too much Lego. I know this is like first world problems, but you'll be like, do you really need that much Lego? Am I being a good parent? Like, we still have that, right? And it's not like, I'm spending my days drinking champagne on super yachts.
Obviously. And you're still working your ass off. And that's also
still working
really
my ass off. Yeah.
However successful people become, they still work hard and they don't go, oh, well, now I'm comfortable. I'll just take a little, a rest and take my foot off the pedal. They just keep going. And I think that's also a really big indicator of a successful person. So we're running out of time. And I just want to close with my question, which is, what are your biggest learnings from all of this that you can kind of impart and share with people listening? And maybe link to that, like if you were to do it differently now and looking back on your journey and you could give advice to people who are kind of about to start on this journey, what would that be?
Okay, so one of the things is, my husband actually said this to me, it's so weird. He's training as a coach with us from May to this month. So one of my biggest things is the coaching skills, that personal development. Personal development is one of the most important things that we do. So really focus on that. Have the right people around you. I've worked with my mentor since 2018, and she's like a friend. So have people around you who are in your corner. Don't do things that don't sit right with you, but be aware that you still have to take action. The decisions that I made because everyone was doing it, and now I think I knew it wasn't aligned. And also know your numbers, because that is what makes a business. And I think if I was starting out, I say to people, be really clear on your target audience and why. And there's something that they say, and I know, I apologize for what it sounds like. People talk about your origin story, right? So they talk about what brought you here. So what brought me here makes sense with Optimus, okay? It makes sense with my business. But actually, when I first started, I could have worked with educators. That probably would have made more sense, right? That would have been easier. So think about your origin story. Think about why it would make sense for people to work with you based on your past experience. And test and measure. I've always said this to people. Test and measure. Yeah? Test things. Don't write a course until you know people are going to buy it. Like, that's
absolutely right. To spend weeks doing something unless you've worked out whether there's a market for it.
And sometimes it won't be. I've tested things and I've got like nothing, no response from anyone. I'm like, I'm really sure of this. I'll test it again. Still no response. Okay. Third time, no response. I think it's clear that this.
And also taking a learning, like we've been working together for a while, but taking the learning, like if it's not working, don't give up, fix it, change it, look at it again.
100%.
So, it's so interesting. Look, this has been really great. I've really loved this because it's just been a really,
I have.
A really great conversation. And I hope that the people listening have really got a lot out of this, because I just love hearing stories of how people went on their journey, as I said, and that sounds really cliched, but as I said at the beginning, that whole, you look at somebody as an end product and you don't really know the graft that's gone in to get them where they've got to, and that actually nothing comes easy to anyone really who's successful. They've all had their failures. They've all worked through stuff. We've all gone through these transitions. You had your child and your first daughter and you were like, now what? There's just so many people in our community, and me. I was in a now what situation, completely lost. Like, you find your way, you just have to find it. So if coaching is something that you are interested in and you are listening to this and Ruth's story is inspiring you, have a conversation with Ruth, with one of the team. Have a look at what they do, because we chose to work with Optimus, not just because they're our partner, but because we know that they're different to all the other coaching options out there, in how Ruth described how there was a gap in the market for the psychology aspect of it, and not just we train you and throw you out, but like that deeper piece. And so have a chat and see if coaching is for you. Anyway, I hope that you got great value from listening. If you want to reach out, I know that you run various sessions, don't you, like dip into coaching and find out about it.
Sessions. We've got a coaching experience this week, which gives you a flavour, because our next diplomas start on the 13th. So if you're like, oh, I really want to think of it now, just drop me a DM. and we can just get you onto that and send you all the recordings. So you've missed them live, except for today and tomorrow, but you can watch the recordings.
Amazing. All right. Well, Ruth, that was amazing. I loved it. I'm going to drop some links into the group. If you're watching this on replay and you've got any questions, tap them into the thread or just reach out to Ruth directly. She's really responsive and you will get an answer. But she's really busy too, so you may not get it immediately. And thank you, Ruth. Have a great day. Thanks everyone for listening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.